Hey, what's going on? This is Chev from Bring On the Heat. Hey, so I was thinking about something a couple days ago. So people usually like to relate their dietary, behaviors or needs towards the things that they've immediately learned, like when they grew up, as a kid, or people that they were around throughout the majority of their life. Those are usually patterns that, from what I've noticed, show that they usually kind of correlate with their own style. Like if you're raised by your parents and they eat only vegetables throughout the course of your life growing up, 9 times out of 10, and from what I've observed, I don't know the actual statistics, but it seems like you would usually go along with what you were around or were exposed to. So that kind of makes sense to me in that regard. But I kind of want people to think about it. Just think about it for a moment, or at some point in time where you have to look back further than just your parents. I feel you have to almost look back further down your lineage to kind of see, like what your grandparents did, your great grandparents, your great greats, if you can. Kind of look back and see exactly what they would eat. Now, if the issue for you is, let's say, weight management, which is the majority of the United States at this point in time, that's just, statistics. Those are facts right now. That's one of the number one things right now in correlations to heart disease and cardiovascular disease is, that all being in combination with being overweight. I think that people need to look further beyond just their immediate family, as far as like their parents, and look further down the line and see, if it's possible to, if you can ask your grandparents or your great grandparents, if you're able to, again, or just ask your parents or your grandparents what their parents did dietary, like their diet wise, and then basically see uh, exactly what the results were. Like if they ate bacon, every day, but they had issues with high blood pressure. Kind of get an idea and see, well, if that didn't work for them, maybe that may not work for me. You just kind of have to do a little research, and I'm not saying this to say just kind of sway you one way or the other. It's just I kind of want you to just observe it and ask certain questions, and then you'll kind of get a full understanding of where you come from, by bloodline, uh, genetics, however way you want to call it. You can look back from those times and see how it could potentially correlate and relate to you in the present, because you are essentially those people, a younger version of them, of course, but you're an extension of them. So usually you should have the same genetics or the same similar makeups, uh, diet wise, where it will correlate essentially like the certain foods that they ate and that you eat, you'll have similar responses to it. Not always. Now, that's not always the case, but the most of the time that usually is the case. So it's just another way of looking at it. That's not scientifically like proven, but I've learned through life that if you want to figure out where you're going, as far as where you're going down the road in your life, in the future that you want to have, you have to understand the past. You have to understand your history, essentially, and that's the best way to put it, I believe. So if your diet, or you just want to be healthier and take holistic approaches, I think that that's an important avenue to cover, just so you know where you should go, where you should be directing yourself. So if certain things didn't work out for your ancestors, essentially that's what they are, then you might want to consider taking a different approach, and that will save you time, energy. Wondering, where do I start? Well, there's a start right there. You always have to know where you come from when it comes to making decisions like that, or at least the background of your family lineage. Um, Me in particular, I'm African American. Obviously, I'm sure you noticed that. But I am in the United States. essentially, for me, I could go back as far as my great-great-grandparents, and that's probably far enough to determine what tendencies, uh, well, what things would respond to me in what ways, as far as like, you know, eating higher fats can cause a greater chance of high blood pressure. Probably for most people, but in my family, I'm pretty certain it doesn't take much for something like that to happen genetically. But I'm a very healthy person at the same time, and I'm very active. But I don't consume those things because I was aware of those things from my great grandparents and great grandparents, that they had issues. Well, not necessarily issues, but those foods didn't always agree with a few of them. And so that's one of those things where I know in the back of my head, well, maybe I don't need to worry about those foods. And I learned that at a very early age. I was very observant at that early on. So just something to think about on this vlog. You can respond back in the comment section. I just like having conversations like this. I'm not sure if this is reaching out to a ton of people yet, but at some point it doesn't matter if it's just one person that gets something out of this. And this is pretty much just raw footage, just me picking up my phone and essentially just hitting the video button and rolling through a couple minutes of what's been on my mind as far as, approaches that can help you determine where you should start off, at least dietary, as far as the dietary needs are concerned for you, because everybody's a little different with it. But for me, I've learned that keeping it plant-based, high fiber, high water-based works a ton better than anything else that I've ever tried and attempted. It's very natural. For me, I'm sure it would be for the majority, but for me, I can definitely vouch for that. But either way, leave something in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe. There'll be plenty more vlogs to come, plenty more Q&As, plenty more of what I'm doing during the day, just kind of walking around, some things that I may do from time to time, or some trips I have coming up soon. But either way, just give me a shout out there. Like I said, subscribe, and looking forward to hearing from you guys. Take it easy. Chev out.